All right, HorrorHound Weekend. It is time to get started. We got the Oddity Files podcast getting ready to come up here. Let me introduce you to Kitsie Duncan, Clayton Abbott, and possibly third. All right, here we go.
Okay, Pint-Sized Zero, get up here. I have to show you what this, our biggest, littlest fan.
Just stand up on the chair.
The chair. Look at this.
Look at this
Look
shirt.
at this boy. Now bow.
Number one fan.
Okay, go see your mom. I'm Kitsie Duncan.
And I'm Clayton Abbott.
And this is DJ Jimmy.
Yeah.
So what we are is we're a paranormal podcast. We talk about creepy shit and we drop the F-bomb a whole lot. But we're a podcast where we talk about creepy shit, like I said. We've got snarky attitudes.
Sometimes more than others.
Yeah. And we drink wine. So cheers, everybody.
Always. Last night it was bourbon because it had been a week, but...
Yeah, top secret. We had to record 3 episodes last night.
Yeah.
And it was rough.
So that's one thing about starting like a smaller independent podcast is, we don't have those radio stations behind us to go into their studios and record live every time that we're, that we're wanting to broadcast an episode. We're doing this quite literally in a bedroom-turned studio in Kitsie's house, and actually...
I like to call it the dungeon.
Right, and then DJ Jimmy just edits the whole thing and throws them together. And every Friday you guys have one, so it has been crazy just not having that, that mass production that you get from a radio station.
Oh, but I love it. I love it that
it
it's
just makes it
us
a lot
telling
more
each other's
fun.
stories.
It's so raw, and we just get to be ourselves. We don't have anyone saying you can't say this, you can't say this. We just say whatever the hell we want.
Literally.
Sometimes it might offend people, and we are sorry most of the time, but that's just who we are.
So what we do is we each come up with a story for every episode. We don't know what the story that each other's going to tell, and we kind of just surprise each other and try to out-spooky each other, maybe?
I guess so. Yeah, so if you don't know, we also have a TV show on Amazon Prime called Oddity Files, and it's an investigative paranormal show where we quite literally go all over the world to try to find ghosts and everything, spirits, entities.
We find all the ghosts.
And so we were like, let's start a podcast, but we didn't want to limit ourselves just to talking about ghosts. So that's why we talk about cryptids and UFOs and just anything that...
Legends, lore, anything.
So
It's
often
creepy.
people, they think paranormal only means ghosts. But paranormal is just things that aren't normal and just that you don't exactly have an answer for.
Right.
And so... in one of our first episodes, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of a chupacabra, which, I had 100 times, but I didn't really know what it was or the story behind it. And so that's kind of what we do. We just find things that we didn't even know we wanted to know.
The very first episode, my very first story was the Loveland, the frog, what does it say?
Frogman.
The Loveland Frogman. And that's why we're wearing this uniform today, to rep Cincy and to rep the podcast.
Yeah.
So...
Got to start somewhere, right?
We do. I noticed somebody else is wearing some ride gear out here. Holla. So our podcasts come out every Friday. And today's podcast was a big fucking deal. I don't know if any of you have heard of Norman Reedus. Yeah. He was a guest on the show today and had the creepiest freaking story I've ever heard. And God, I love that man. I kind of wish he was here.
I know, right? Can you imagine if he walked out? But then he'd outshine us, and then.
Well,
this is our show, Norman. All right, you have enough.
Stay where you are, Mr. Man. But on the way out here, I do have to say, I think it was a good omen. I went by this truck with a huge sticker on the back of Bigfoot. And it said, I believe. So that's everything's kind of coming full circle for me today. I don't know if you guys know this, but Clayton and I are part of the photo ops company that's been with HorrorHound since forever. And HorrorHound was our first show.
It was, yeah.
And our first photo op was Norman Reedus. So here we fucking are.
Right. It could not be more appropriate. And the thing is, we didn't even plan it that way to have, the Norman episode aired today, that was not at all planned, and you can believe us or not, but it really wasn't.
No, it wasn't. It took me 3 months to grow the balls to ask him to be on the show. I'm not even kidding.
And it's so crazy because her and I have investigated since 2013, 12, 13 together, And so, like a lot of times, like she said, we go into these not knowing what each other's stories are going to be, and somehow they always have some weird connection.
It's like the
2
last
weeks
4
ago,
episodes,
the last week they both kind of took place in Chicago. This week you'll have to go listen, but both of them have something to do with kids with like black eyes. And it's just crazy. Like we don't plan this stuff, and we're like, no one's gonna believe us that we don't plan this, but it just always happens.
But we're on all, like you said, we're on Amazon Prime. Oddity Files Crew is our YouTube. It has a bunch of like lost episodes that we don't count anymore. Also, the podcast is everywhere. So search for Oddity Files. Please subscribe, like, rate, review, all those things. But I've got a story.
I have a story.
Jimmy, who goes first?
Ooh.
I should know.
Like I said, we did 3 episodes last night.
So today, on today's episode, Kitsie, you went first. So I guess technically, it's Clayton's turn.
Oh, wow me, sir.
Okay, so coming into this, we kind of talked to each other, and we were like, are we going to go a certain route, or is it just like any other episode? And we essentially said, let's just make it like any other episode, so you guys kind of get a feel just for who we are. So, because we both had the same idea, so we're like, we can't do that. So obviously we're in Cincinnati, but that's not necessarily where everyone might be from. Yes, we're all here. So what I wanted to do, and I kind of got the idea from Kitsie from a couple weeks ago, when she covered the Poltergeist hauntings. Ooh. And so I was like, I wonder how many film sets and film productions have been plagued by hauntings. And so I'm going to cover a couple of the more notorious hauntings that have happened on film sets, because I feel like you guys as fans here at HorrorHound Weekend, you are horror film fans, you like the freaky, you like just anything that has to do with that. So
look at the good you do.
I try. Alright, so there are actually 3. There are 3 different stories, 3 film sets that were literally plagued with death and with just super, super inconvenient things happening. So the first one I'm going to cover...
Inconvenient or terrifying?
Terrifying.
Okay.
But the original Omen.
Oh.
So the horror classic, directed by Richard Donner, tells the story of a young child, Damien Thorne, played by Harvey Spencer Stevens.
Who was here at HorrorHound Cincy, 4 years ago? God, I'm old. Go ahead.
So soon thereafter, the husband and wife were surrounded by ominous deaths, unaware that the child was the Antichrist. I didn't write that. That's from the movie. But this has to be one of the most talked about films because of the amount of things that happened during its production. So screenwriter David Seltzer, his plane was actually struck by lightning. Similarly, this happened to Gregory Peck, who plays the American ambassador Robert Dorn.
Two separate planes?
2 separate planes.
Oh,
if you're really familiar with the film. But Peck actually canceled his reservation for the flight to find out that plane that was struck crashed and everyone died on board.
Oh my God, they died?
They died. So the IRA bombed the hotel where Richard Donner was residing during the whole production. The dogs that were hired for the film actually attacked their trainers.
Oh my God.
And in addition, you know the scene with like the baboons that takes place at the start?
I've not seen it.
Okay, so an animal handler...
I couldn't watch scary movies when I was a kid, thanks Mom.
So when they were doing this, one of the animal handlers was attacked and eaten by a lion.
What the fuck?
I would quit this job immediately.
No, you just pull everybody out and say sorry, see ya.
Oh, it gets better. Or worse.
Or worse.
Yeah. So on the first day of filming, some of the crew members got into a head-on car crash. Luckily, no one was like severely hurt, but still, it fits the bill.
It's still creepy, yeah.
So after creating the scene where someone dies of decapitation, some of the people behind the gag were victims of a different automobile accident. So special effects supervisor John Richardson and his assistant Liz Moore were both involved in a separate head-on crash that left Moore literally cut in half.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad.
Crazy. You can't make this shit up.
No.
The accident happened on Friday the 13th next to a road sign, and it read ONNEN at 66.6 kilometers.
Get the fuck out.
I'm not making this up. Like, this is real. You can literally go and look to see where this happened.
Why would you even film something that has to do with the Satan on Friday the 13th? Or does it have anything to do with Friday?
They're just driving.
Dumbasses. Go ahead.
So, several weeks before filming, the son of Gregory Peck committed suicide.
That's
And the reason is literally unknown. Like, everyone said that he was a very just like positive, normal person, and there was no note, nothing.
Oh my god.
But that's why when I read all this about The Omen, I was like, this is intense. Like, this isn't just strange things happening on set.
This is like legit curse shit.
Literal curses.
Yeah.
So, so that's The Omen. Now you guys know.
Now,
Don't make a movie.
Did they have did they know who caused the curse? Was there a reason? Like Poltergeist was
The
curse.
devil.
Well, duh. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
Okay, so the second film is actually Amityville Horror, which when I was little, I remember watching this at an age that I probably shouldn't have watched it, and it fucked with me for so long because, I mean, like a 5 or 6 year old probably shouldn't watch that
Oh,
anyways.
gee, you were 5?
Well, I wasn't supposed to be
Where
watching
was your
it.
mother? I know
They
your
were
mother.
watching it. I was hiding and watching it.
I did that with Cujo. Go ahead.
But I was so scared, and I had to admit to her that I watched it because when I like snuck into the room that night, terrified, she was like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I watched that movie with you guys." I literally was up on a second. There was like a banister that ran along our balcony, and it was late, and I just sat there and I watched the whole thing.
And that's why you're so weird now.
Explains a lot. So, Amityville Horror. I'm not gonna summarize it because I think you guys know.
There won't be any spoilers because I'm assuming everybody here's seen it, right?
Hopefully, if not, sorry. So, actor James Brolin, who plays the father, George Lutz, in the original film, was hesitant even about accepting the role after he read the script. So, he arrived very tense, and so when he gets into his dressing room, I guess, his pants just fell off the hanger by themselves, which, like, okay, I would be a little freaked out too, but the air could have turned on. I don't know.
Yeah, it's explainable, for sure.
So,
But he was a pussy.
no, it actually made him say, like, I want to do this more.
Really?
He thought
I
it was
like this
something
guy.
telling him, you need to do this.
Okay. He's
Right.
okay in my book.
So one night, Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are very dear to our hearts because they inspire so much that we do, investigated the scene by placing cameras all around his house. They found in one of the pictures a young boy with glowing eyes. Many have said that the boy is the ghost of John Matthew DeFeo, the youngest of the children from Amityville Weekend. There are many conspiracies on whether it's John Matthew, a photographer or demon revealing itself as a human, or just completely something different.
There's no demons. Go ahead.
So while the Warrens were investigating the Amityville house, they came home to their own sort of nightmare. So Ed was in his office, and the latch at the end of the passageway snapped open, and he heard heavy footsteps approaching his office. Which,
I would have put my head in one.
but for them, like that's their livelihood. Ed and Lorraine Warren, they were the top. They were the original paranormal investigators.
They really were. The Conjuring movies are based on
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Right.
So for something like that, and for him to make a big deal out of it, I feel like that's
For sure.
something. So in the 2005 remake with Ryan Reynolds, who then plays the dad, he reported that he
I
and
like that
other
version better. I'm just putting that out there.
but him and other crew members kept waking up at 3:15 every morning, which was the time that Robert DeFeo murdered his parents and 4 siblings.
Hey Ryan, if you're listening, call me. Let's talk about it.
This is crazy. So again, this is not talking about the remake, but just before filming began, a dead body washed up on shore. Of the
Oh, get
set.
the fuck out.
Swear.
No.
I swear.
Because I know there was like the lake or whatever. No.
Yeah, so crazy. Alright, so the last film that I'm going to cover is, because I had to, and it's significant enough, it might sound corny, but The Exorcist was so terrible in their production in terms of like things happening to them.
Really?
Which is highly unfortunate.
These are pretty major movies.
That's what I'm
I haven't
saying,
heard of
yeah.
this.
So surrounding the films are 9 deaths from cast and crew. A crew member and a technician both died during production, but as far as what happened to them, literally went unreported.
Oh, that's sketchy.
Right. So the brother of Max von Sydow, sorry if anyone you were close to
I think you pronounced it right.
Okay, thanks. So he passed away, as did Linda Blair's grandfather, all again during filming. So before the film was released, Brake Dennings, played by Jack McGowan, died of flu complications. Father Damien Karras' mother, played by Vasiliki Maliaros.
I think you screwed that one up.
Okay, thanks. Died after her participation with the film, but before it was released. And it never said how, but nonetheless, she did. So during the original release, it affected many audiences so strongly that paramedics were called to treat people who fainted. Literally, when we stutter like that, that's why DJ Jimmy edits things.
Yeah. So we sound way better on
We'll like stutter and we'll look at him and say, cut that out.
Yeah. And then we argue about whether we're going to cut it out or not.
One man while watching the film, one man actually fainted and broke his jaw on the seat in front of him.
That had to fucking hurt.
Yeah, but how far was the seat in front of him?
Well, maybe he's klutzy like me.
So this was one that I found really crazy. A mysterious fire ruined the set while no cast or crew were around at all, which caused a 6-week delay in production. There was only one room in all the set in this mass fire that was absolutely untouched.
Oh.
Which room do you think it was? Have you seen
The
The
bedroom.
Exorcist?
I've seen parts of it. The bedroom.
Yes, Reagan's bedroom.
Movies are scary, people. I have nightmares. But ghosts are fun.
Which is crazy that literally this place was destroyed in the fire,
Oh, yeah.
but the bedroom was.
Oh, let's bedroom? Look, I got 5 points.
So I didn't know this, that Linda Blair was actually, she got a ton of death threats following the film from, quote, religious zealots, because they said that the film was glorifying Satan. So she had bodyguards protecting her for 6 months after the release. Which, I mean, she was a child.
I know.
I mean, think about a child even trying to understand what a death threat is.
Right. And most of it was Eileen, right? We all know that, right? Come on.
Zealots. So Linda Blair actually had a mental breakdown during filming and attacked her on-screen mother.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, so the scene where Reagan throws her mother.
Was she a teenager? Because it all makes sense. You got that.
Sorry, I don't have dogs. So the scene where she throws her mother across the room resulted in permanent spinal injury.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, she was in a harness, but it broke, and she landed weird, and it literally fucked up her back, and like still spinal
Is
issues.
she still alive?
I don't know. That's why
Do you
I
guys know?
hesitated. Is the
Like,
mother
her mom? No.
Ellen Burstyn?
But she
Sorry,
died
I
from
really
that back.
did
Just putting that out there.
DJ Jimmy, she's still alive.
Hold on, I'm working on it.
He'll answer in a sec.
But what's crazy is that take is in the film.
Oh, wow.
Because everything was so
Now
raw
I'm going to have to watch it.
and genuine that they left it in.
She's still alive and she's 86.
Well,
Oh, I know her. Ellen Burstyn. Yeah. Okay. Poor thing.
so she's still alive, just might not be kicking.
Literally.
But, yeah, so it's so crazy that they used that take because the screams and everything were so legit. But I mean, that makes sense.
That's kind of shitty.
I know.
to do that.
But I love film. I love all things film, and I like all genres of film. And I was like, why didn't it kind of made me mad that I didn't think of it before Christina or before you did an episode on it. And so I was like, damn it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm doing a HorrorHound because they're all film buffs as well. And
Yeah, exactly.
it was also highly convenient that all these haunted sets were horror films.
Oh, that's
Not a
they
single
always
one
are.
was like Talladega Nights plagued by ghosts.
Well, and they
Or like a
use that.
rom-com.
Right.
It doesn't happen.
Not at all. And they use it as a marketing scheme, but when there's death,
Right.
it's
Or like the fire.
Yeah.
Or like the dead body washing up on that
Oh,
lake.
yeah, it sounds a lot like the Poltergeist.
I know. So maybe
You
there's.
guys have to download the podcast to listen to that, but it was really good.
Yeah, but that's my 3-in-1 story.
I like it. Good job, Clayton.
I'm excited for yours though, because you've been talking about it forever, but
Oh.
you haven't told me anything about it.
Let's everybody give Clayton a round of applause. Okay, first and foremost, we thought we'd have 10 people here. Thank you for fucking being here. You guys give yourself a round of applause. I just wanted an excuse to scream, but I really do thank you. So those of you that don't listen to the podcast, don't really know anything about Clayton and I, This story is very fitting for me because Clayton and I met each other working at a haunted attraction, which was some of the best freaking movie sets I've ever seen in my life in a haunted attraction.
It really was, yeah.
Anybody in Indiana, definitely check it out. They're not paying us, I swear. Fear Fair in Seymour, Indiana. It is the shit.
Yeah, they are so good.
So, is anybody here from Cincinnati area? Oh, sweet.
Nice.
So you guys may have heard of this one, but I have twists and turns, and you guys are just going to love it. Maybe. We'll see. I have the legend of Lick Road and the spirit of Amy. Is anybody familiar with Lick Road? Is it as creepy as they say it is? Oh, sweet. I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so Lick Road dead ends at the Richardson Forest Preserve, maintained by the Hamilton County Park District, and it is creepy as fuck, according to them, because I've not been there. I may go tonight. We should all meet up. Now, the most information I found was on a spirit named Amy, who, legend has it, was brutally raped and murdered on Lick Road. Those of you, again, who don't listen to the podcast, I am a true crime fucking junkie. So you put haunting together with murder, I'm fucking in.
Side note, can I butt in?
Yeah.
So we were actually at an investigation that was a few hours away, and
always butt in, by the way.
And so we were driving home, and we had like 4 hours, and we left at 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's totally his
And
fault.
so we're so tired, and I'm just like, I don't know how we're gonna stay up, because I'll drive, but I'm that person that someone has to stay up with me.
And
like,
you
I'm
keep
not
up.
going to be surrounded by asleep people and be expected to stay awake.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, have you ever heard of this podcast, which actually is DJ Jimmy's fault because he was a fan first.
My favorite murder.
And so we listened to My Favorite Murder, and literally the next day, she said, I'm like 20 episodes in. I'm like, there aren't enough hours in the day. Like, no. Sorry.
No, sleep too. No, but after you subscribe to our podcast, check those girls out. They're kind of awesome.
They also don't pay us.
We kind of ripped off their idea. We just put ghosts and shit in. Anywho, I have no idea where I left
Sorry.
off. No, please, every time
Raped and
interrupt me. Raped and murdered. That's right. Okay. So, legend has it, Amy was brutally raped and murdered on Lick Road in the 90s by her boyfriend after prom. What a bad prom date he was. I'm just putting that out there. We make fun of everything, even murder. I'm just putting that out there. If you don't like it, find the fucking door. Anyway, however, there's no proof of this. People had searched police records, things like that. There's no proof that an Amy was murdered after prom and decapitated and thrown down the well, for lack of a better term. Well, no one really knows how the story started. The haunting is documented all over the internet. You go to YouTube and you search for the legend of Lick Road or the spirit of Amy. People are out there investigating all the time, getting all kinds of crazy evidence. So the evidence is screams of a female, crying coming from the woods. The most common occurrence is disembodied footsteps all around the area. So you can like stand on this road and you hear people, you don't see anybody, but you hear people walking around all around you. How creepy is that? I would run, not really. And you can catch a glimpse, not everybody, I probably wouldn't, but catch a glimpse of a spectral woman in white. But the most popular story is that if you sit in your car long enough with the windows up and the vehicle turned off and the radio turned down, that Amy will write, "Help me," in the condensation on the window. I'm not buying it, but I'd like to try. Again, anybody want to go? EVPs have also been captured stating the name of the brave people are searching her. So it's not saying what the spirit's name is, it's calling out your name, which is creepy as hell. Some have also claimed to feel the touch of an unseen force tugging them onto the bridge, so kind of pulling them up onto the bridge. Any questions?
No.
I lost my place. This is where Jimmy will cut this out so that you guys can listen to it. Okay, so now after a bit of research, while, like I said, there's no actual documentation of Amy in the 90s being murdered or even found dead at this location, I did come across this terrifying story. A headline in April of 1978 stated, 2.5-year toll of female murder victims now stands at 16, with one of the victims being 15-year-old Linda Dyer being found under the bridge of Lick Road. Linda was at a party with friends when she realized she had left her coat behind at a previous place where her friends were at, and her friends were like, no, you don't need your coat, but apparently I'm sure her mom would have grabbed her if she forgot her coat or whatever, but she insisted that she had to go back and get her coat. Cindy Brady moment. Anybody who follows us on Twitter knows what that means. Okay. So her friends actually, she's like, I'm going to hitchhike. I'll be fine. It was the 70s. I guess everybody hitchhiked back then. I don't know. I was just a little baby. And her friends actually saw her leave in an orange Volkswagen with 2 men driving it. I guess in the 70s, hitchhiking was today's version of Uber and Lyft. Again, I don't know. Her friends saw her leave, and later that night, a resident from Coleraine, is that right? Coleraine? Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Who was partying near Lick Road with her friends, claims hearing an argument toward Lick Road. So they weren't actually on Lick Road. I guess it was like a teenage place to kind of hang out and party back in the 70s. I thought everywhere was like that back then. But she heard an argument having to do something with alcohol. She didn't even think twice about it. And then she ended up seeing an orange Volkswagen drive away with 2 men in it. It wasn't until 6:30 the following evening that police received a call stating a work crew spotted a nude body of a 15 to 18-year-old Caucasian woman with a stab wound was spotted under the bridge on Lick Road. After an words are hard. An autopsy. Thank you. Autopsy. My Chicago wanted to come out there. After an autopsy, it was confirmed she was raped, stabbed, and then strangled to death. While authorities have their suspicions that Larry Ralston was the murderer, it has never been proven, and Linda Dyer's case has been cold since the 70s.
Whoa.
Larry Ralston was convicted of 5 of those 16 murders in the headline and was a suspect in all the others, pretty much, and he is still in prison to this day. Fuck him. Can we just say that? Fuck
Bitches.
him. Yeah. Bitch. When the police caught up with him, Mr. Ralston, let's just call him Dickhead from here on out. Cool? Everybody cool with that? When the police caught up with him, Dickhead was a 28-year-old unemployed dropout of Norwood High School. He held jobs before at the Hamilton County Morgue, well, there's your sign, and state mental hospitals. But at that time, he was living at home or he was with a short list of friends. Dickhead's father told reporters that he had warned his son that his irresponsible lifestyle, this was the 70s, so I guess it talked weird, sleeping all day and staying out all night and running around with young girls would bring only trouble. But his mother called him a likable boy, because that's how moms are, who had a knack for talking to anybody, even if you didn't know them. My mother said the same thing about me. I'm not going to lie, that's fucking creepy. So, and here I am. In taped confessions played in court, Dickhead stated how he picked up his hitchhiking victims, words are hard, drove them around drinking wine and smoking marijuana, and that he strangled them when they rejected him sexually.
Whoa.
Likeable my ass. After every murder he did, he would go to a friend's house, and he said he would turn on the song Fly Like an Eagle. I can't even make this shit up. I'm just kind of, is there a movie where somebody's just going like this to fly like an eagle? Anyway. It would put him into a trance and made him feel better about what he did. Again, fuck you. So, that brings us to the point where, could Linda be the spirit actually haunting Lick Road? Me thinks yes. Yeah?
Yeah, well, when you first started, I was like, so did the Linda story get like or not even fabricated, but just like telephone game enough that her name Amy?
Oh, I'll get to that.
Okay.
I did some research. I get bonus points. And where did you just said my next line? Where did the name Amy come from? So this took a little more digging, and apparently on a street sign near the bridge for several years, the name Amy was spray painted onto one of the signs, and I'm thinking that's how the name stuck. I mean, I was hoping for something like several EVPs collected say Amy, but now it appears just, these alleged ghost hunters had zero imagination. Like, oh, it's Amy because it says so. Because, spirits can spray paint on street signs.
Okay, but we also couldn't remember the tarot card reader's name, so we called her Terry.
Her name's Helena. She was on Ghost Hunters the other day, and she's a badass. Names are hard. Okay. So the spirit of Amy is quite possibly the spirit of this poor, sweet 15-year-old girl named Linda who just wanted to get her coat. Anyway, can you imagine the guilt of her friends, though? God, I hope none of them are here. But Jesus Christ, let the girl get her coat. I feel so bad for her. Well, anyway, sorry, I'm droning. Now, y'all thought, I know y'all thought anybody want to head out there? I've got the directions, is what I'm really trying to say. You take US 27 to Coleraine Avenue exit, north from I-275 to the Kemper Road exit, and turn right onto Kemper. You go up a few blocks and turn left onto Lick Road. It's the third road you will come to on the left.
Are you writing this down?
You just text that to us.
Yeah, can you post that on social?
I will. Oddity Files, at Oddity Files. So you guys all have fun with that because I'm going home tonight. I'm not going to lie. But I got most of this information from the Haunted Cincinnati in Southwest Ohio book by Jeff Morris and Michael A. Morris. So shout out to them. We just find really cool stories we want to know more about, and then we tell those stories.
That is really cool.
It
and
is.
You know what's sad is that I lived here for 2 years and I was completely unaware.
But you knew about the Frogman.
I did. Well, it's hard to live here and not know about the Frogman.
I never heard of it. I'm like, I'm going to stump Clayton tonight. And he's like,
Right.
well, I lived right down the street from him.
Well, how are you? DJ Jimmy. He just fell asleep.
Please tell me that's what happened, because that was
No, but my favorite part of the Loveland Frogman story was that they were allegedly playing, or these like two eyewitnesses with
Yes.
this hilarious photo, which if it's real, then he's just hilarious. I'm not like discounting the photo. But they were just
he
playing
just came to the door. Did you see him?
the Frogman.
Yeah.
But they were playing Pokemon Go, and so like obviously you have to have your phone out, and like it's so stupid in my head.
It's like, Pokemon. It's
just stupid.
So that's our podcast.
That was
It's
cool.
not super creepy, but they're really, really
But
interesting.
sometimes they are like more scary. Like honestly, mine that aired today, it's creepy as hell. It's about a haunted object called the Enhanced Resistant.
Which I had never ever heard of.
Just a really like one of the most haunted objects in the entire world. It's this painting. If you want to know more about it, go over and listen to that episode. But
Subscribe on.
But like some of the
subscribe
stuff
on
that we talk about is terrifying, and we'll be sitting
And I
again
think
in our
that's why we crack jokes.
right because like we're both uncomfortable. And we're like, But we'll be sitting in our bedroom turned studio, freaked out with like goosebumps, and then the AC turns on and we all jump.
Or Alexa speaks up.
Alexa,
Did that
her
last
bitch
time.
ass always interrupts, and we're like, no one said anything
Nobody
about
summoned
you.
you, bitch.
What did she? Literally last night we were.
We couldn't shut her up.
Usually she like at least says, "I'm sorry, what did you say?"
Yeah.
And she said something about, "I can't make that phone call right now." Like we weren't talking about a phone. Nor did we say Alexa.
Yeah, it was so weird.
No, but like I said, we also do a lot of investigations, and so our second season of the show is about to be released, and we actually have our third season that's in post now, and we start investigating for season 4 next month.
Season 3 we start investigating.
Really? I thought we
Yeah.
had season 3 all done.
Did you tell them where they can watch that stuff?
Yeah, it was on Prime.
Sometimes I drunk. No, I'm just kidding. But season 1 that's up there now, if you have Amazon Prime, it's free. It's totally free. Just add us to your watch list. What was the school we investigated?
Yeah, we actually investigate Higginsport School, which is about 45 minutes east of here.
Yeah.
Whatever the highway is that on the Ohio side that just runs to the river. If you take that highway, you'll run into it. What's crazy, don't use your maps because Google Maps, you know when it doesn't really know what's there and it just turns into a grid? That's literally Higginsport.
Right at the school.
Yeah.
Which was, it had us terrified absolutely all night.
So typically when we investigate, we have a third person who's kind of our third person cameraman.
It's my son, Carter. Everybody say hi to him and Prince at photo ops.
But he was busy that night, so that was our first time investigating, just us two.
We're big pussies.
Oh my gosh. But granted, this place, it doesn't have doors, it doesn't have windows, and it's massive.
And there were we never hear footsteps.
There was an actual raccoon. I was more worried about rabies than ghosts.
It was literally a rabbit raccoon.
No, but sometimes when we're in these places in the actual middle of nowhere, it's true that you can be more afraid of like people, like literal hobos hanging out in there, and like all jokes aside, that you're gonna walk into a room.
No, people scare me more than ghosts.
And yeah, there's gonna be some.
But not you guys. You guys are
I'd
awesome.
be like, this is my house. It's like, yeah. But
I have a lot of friends here tonight. First and foremost, thank you. Look, there's people. I'm so excited. We're talking about it earlier. We're like, well, 10 people show up. We'll be okay with that.
Right.
But you guys are here, and I'm so excited. One of my friends who lives in the exact same town I live in is here, Hannah, and she's got a personal haunting story. Marjorie, next year, you're telling your story, but Hannah's going to go for it tonight.
So before she starts, one of our favorite things to do on the podcast is we actually accept listeners' submitted stories. So if you have something haunting that's happened to you, or if you've seen the Lovely Frogman, or anything, if you've been abducted by UFOs, literally we want to hear about
I know people. Just saying.
But you can submit those to us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, email us, and if they're good enough, or even if they're not, we'll still read them because we enjoy reading them.
Oh yeah.
Literally, her and I sit together, and we'll read them and talk about them, not even on air.
I know.
It's one of our favorite parts.
Yeah.
So here we are live
Do
with the listeners.
you want to come up here, or do you want to stand down there? It's totally your call. Get up here, girl.
Yeah, come on.
Everybody, Hannah Duncan, no relation. Just live in the same town. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Tell us your story.
Okay, so I hope I don't drum on those people on my favorite murder.
I know.
Call them out, though.
There's been a few. So basically, when I was 12, my grandma died in my house.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. People die, unfortunately.
I'm knocking on the door, people.
It
Just
was
telling you.
on Halloween.
Oh, nice.
She died, yeah.
She had nice timing.
She really did. I have not been too open to spirits in the past, I'd say 10 to 15 years, but the night that she died, I actually told my mom that I needed to go stay somewhere else, before she died.
Oh, so you had a little...
I had a little intuition.
Oh, look at you, fancy pants.
Yeah, so I went and stayed at my other grandparents' house, and then the next morning my mom called and told me that she died. The weeks after she died, she had an oxygen machine that she used, and for weeks after we turned it off, we could still hear it running.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Yeah, and then...
was it Darth Vader or was it Grandma?
I mean, it's,
you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
She's an open girl.
Yeah, exactly. But about a month after she had died, we had a piano that she liked to play, and my mom liked to play, and I liked to play. And when she died, my uncle took it because it was his piano originally. And about a month after she died, in the middle of the night, my sister heard, you bang on the piano, and it's just like a...
Oh, so it's not even tingly.
No.
It's boom.
Yeah. She heard that in the middle of the night. There was just a lot of, weird little things that would happen after she died. I still, to this day, hear footsteps. Doors are still
checking up on
she's
you,
just
girl.
hanging out. If everyone once in a while. But yeah, so that's the biggest thing. I have a lot of paranormal stuff. I've told
Well,
you.
your dad's really into it.
My dad's he's definitely a ghost hunter. His house is insanely haunted.
Someday.
Yeah.
That's really cool though. So like one thing that Kitsie and I always like talk about is that there are different types of ghosts or spirits, that they're intelligent and residual spirits. Like when we're at schools or hospitals or theaters, you get a lot of footsteps and you get a lot of doors closing, and it's nothing telling you their name or how old they are. But think about just the amount of energy that's passed through that place when it is like, you know, kids in a school or patrons at a theater. Some of these places, hundreds of years have passed with people walking through it and closing doors and listening, so that it's almost like rubbing your hand on carpet and touching something like in shocks. That's like static energy, right? So what's the difference in residual energy? Whereas intelligent is when
They say your fucking name.
They say your name, or you see something, or they tell you how old they are. But a lot of times, like these family members, essentially, they just want you to know that they're in a peaceful place and okay. And times like this, when it's nothing bad, they're just letting you know, hey, I'm still around, just not in the same way that I used to be. It just kind of like validates everything that we strive to find.
We're kind of passionate about this shit. Hannah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
you.
Everybody give her a hand, please.
Yay! So that's pretty much what we are. And like I said, and I know we had some stragglers coming. Clayton, look at all these fucking people.
I know. I looked out this second, I was like, wow, this is double what we started with.
Yay. So yay to all of you.
Yes,
thank you so much
Everyone,
for being
thank
here.
you so much.
And if you just popped in and have no idea who the fuck we are, we're Oddity Files. We this is our podcast.
The podcast.
Oh,
you
let's
left
do it
me
again.
hanging.
We'll do it again. We're Oddity Files.
The podcast.
And
And I hope, I said this on the episode because after 17 episodes, however many we're on, I was like, I hope people that listen, like in their car, when it's like, because we're like, hey guys, it's Clayton, it's Kitsie, it's Oddity Files, the podcast.
The podcast, sorry.
And I'm like, I hope repeat listeners do that with us. Like, it
We
never
just said
occurred
that.
to me.
So everybody, we're Oddity Files, the podcast.
Because
Oh,
when you also have a TV show named the same thing, it's like, we're not going to be Oddity Files, the TV show, but like,
Well,
we just
here's
want to let
the
people
real
know.
reason why we named it Oddity Files. I got new vanity plates that say Oddity Files, so we had to kind of stick with the name.
Right, and we don't like rebrand and do all that stuff, so, and it just makes
It's hard.
sense. It is hard. But, no, seriously, even if you don't love us or like us, leave a review, because, we are, like I said, an independent podcast, and we're trying to do all this ourselves from the ground up. So any type of review, rate on any of those, it helps it pop up in other people's feeds, just so, people know that we're there. And we just want to tell creepy, cryptid stories and sit around drinking wine or bourbon, depending on how the week went.
Yeah, exactly. And we have celebrity guests on the show. We've had Bruce Campbell, which I'm sure everybody here knows. And today's podcast, we had, hence the hat, I had Norman Reedus
Right, and
on the show.
Tommy, I'll tell you guys, because you're
It was
here,
top
and so
secret.
it's insider. Just mute that for a second. But Dennis O'Hare from American Horror Story is going to be on an upcoming episode, which is
So
super
exciting.
We're actually interviewing him in London in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I can't wait.
I know. And there's a couple more that we've got lined up that
Yeah.
we're going to have on as well. But it's kind of cool that we meet all these people at all these shows, and I'm like, so, do you have a creepy story? And they're like, well, I do.
But it's crazy because so many of them are like, oh my gosh, yes. And then they'll start telling you, and 15 minutes later, you're both just like in this conversation, because I feel like so many people have had some sort of experience that they can't explain. Not ghosts, not, but just something. Like my dad swears he's seen Bigfoot. Not a joke. And
We're going to that place, and we're going to find him.
But I feel like almost everyone has had some sort of experience in life where they've gone,
Except Michael Cutlets. He has no paranormal story. Are you kidding me? Michael, I'm
Abraham
calling you
is
out.
out of answers.
Yeah. And Dean Cain. Really? Come on.
No, but this is just
But
what we
that's
love
us.
to do, yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody, well, what are we doing
Oh,
here
yeah.
at time?
We have 15 minutes. Does anyone,
No, we have 10 minutes.
10
We
minutes.
got 5 till.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Does anybody have any questions? Just yell real. Oh, no, we've got the guy with the mic who's my favorite BFF right now.
I was just curious, was there a movie that got you inspired to get into the paranormal, and how did you get started with the spirit box?
Oh. So, Poltergeist was the very first scary movie I ever saw in my life. So I was terrified till I turned 39. And then I'm now obsessed. I started watching all the TV shows, and I said, oh, I can do this. I can do this. And it kind of helped me get over my fear, actually.
Yeah.
And the spirit box we saw on all these TV shows that I'm still obsessed with.
Yeah, and same for me. I'd always been a fan of the shows. Like she said, we met in a horror-esque environment, being a haunted attraction.
He was playing Freddy Krueger.
And so we knew that we had that in common, and then just over conversation, we both realized that we were interested in the paranormal. And for me, I started out as a 100%, I'm not saying total like non-believer, like hardcore, but I was like, okay, some of this is far-fetched.
Oh, I schooled him.
Because some of the stuff you see on the shows, you're like, come on, like, give me a break. But then when they happen to you, and you're like, damn it, like, you just have to experience
Well, the
it.
last location we were at, and I'm starting to think it's Jimmy that's bringing out the poltergeist activity.
Me.
Well, don't want to give away
Non-believer.
any spoilers, but the 2 locations Jimmy was at with us, poltergeist activity happened.
Yeah.
One, an ornament flew off a tree.
Yeah.
The second one, we actually heard a ghost sit down in a folding
Like
chair.
a metal chair.
Yeah. It moved, yeah. So,
Yeah, good question.
thanks, you're going everywhere with us from now on.
For questions, even if it's just about like haunted things or about our investigation history or anything
Or if
like
anybody
that.
has a super quick story.
Questions?
I've had Hannah as my go-to, but if anybody else has anything you want to talk about.
Anyone? No questions? Everybody knows everything about the paranormal.
Oh, we got a guy. This guy.
There seems to be a lot of paranormal activity in just the Midwest in general.
Dude, right?
And I mean, I'm not really certain why, but I know that I've heard a million different stories just in the Cincinnati area. And
Oh, it's Cincinnati, it's Indiana, it's Chicago. It's like this, the Great Lakes are just covered in ghosts.
I mean, do you agree? Because I know that there's some stories, in the East, in the West, but you watch those shows,
Yeah.
almost always
Around here, right?
Always.
around here. And is that your same experience?
Well, fortunately, we live in the Midwest, and most of the places we've investigated are here in the Midwest. It's Ohio, it's Illinois, it's Indiana.
And some of our most active locations that we've been to have been around here. Actually, just really quick, there's only one place that we've investigated that I will not return to, and it's 20 minutes south of here.
I was hoping you were going to do that story of Benton Farms. If you guys can investigate it, it's like, 15 minutes from here?
It's super close.
Benton
It's
Family
across the
Farms.
river in Kentucky, but Benton County Farm, they actually do a haunted attraction, and we went and investigated it. Kitsie got pulled down, and on the episode you see the back of her shirt lift up.
And then I fall for 5 seconds.
It's the longest fall ever, but
They still make fun of me, but it was TV gold.
no, but actually I had some lasting effects after that investigation for about 2 weeks. I really couldn't sleep. I just felt a presence in my home, which really kind of like makes me want to draw the line and say, all right, something that I'm doing is causing this.
Yeah.
And I know that some people don't believe in like attachments, but it doesn't mean that
we
there
do.
was something inside of me. It could have been in on the shirt that I was wearing that day, or it's so much beyond that. But yeah, Benton County Farms, particularly the attic.
Yes.
There's a gentleman up there.
And something Clayton and I want to kind of prove to the world, because you watch these shows and everything's demon, right? Why would a demon be haunting an opera house in friggin' Mitchell, Indiana? There's asshole ghosts. They're going to do everything they can to get you to leave them alone. So they're not something to be afraid of. They are something that, if they're trying to communicate with you, I believe sometimes they don't know how to do that.
Right. Well, and actually, Kitsie's the one that first said this, but unfortunately, there are shitty people in real life, and there are also good people in real life. And so, why is the afterlife any different? Why do we get more negative energy and negative just interaction at jails and stuff like that, whereas we get more residual positive stuff at schools?
Right.
Well, if you think about it, not the best people hang out in jails. And like innocent children.
They're my favorite though, I'm not gonna lie.
But it just like goes to point out that just because something's mad, it doesn't have to be a demon, you know what I mean? It can be a lot of other things. It can just be a shitty person.
And sometimes a little girl is a little girl.
Right.
I'm not calling out any names with TV shows, but sometimes a little girl is a little girl.
No, but it's one of the things that's the most fun about what we do, because again...
Why'd you pour me more wine?
Because you were saying something crazy, so I felt like getting more.
My friends are here, they're used to it.
You drinking? No, but just like growing and learning as investigators, because much like the TV show, we started from scratch. We started with a K2 and a video camera, and now we are where we are, but we've done it all ourselves as an independent production.
We have wireless microphones right now. We are so excited.
No, but I feel like it really does help as a production company starting from scratch and doing everything yourself, because you don't have that upper whatever you want to call it, always telling you what to do, how to do it, how long you're going to do it. I mean, sometimes we go places, we investigate for 2 hours, nothing happens, we're like, you know what, the place on the road is great pizza, let's just do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're there until morning because it's great.
And sometimes we order the pizza and then the ghosts come out. It's like, could you not have waited?
Right. No, but it's a lot of fun, and seriously, we cannot thank you guys enough for coming here.
And we're Oddity Files, the podcast. Oh, I love you guys.
But just for listening to us talk for 45 minutes to an hour, seriously, we can sit here all day and answer questions about
Absolutely.
it. That's seriously what we love to do, because we have grown extremely passionate about this entire industry.
It's stupid.
Yeah, we text about it on the daily.
We do. But before we head out, if you guys could kind of all get in the middle, we want to pull like the real stars do, where you're all standing behind us on the stage and we take a selfie. Can you guys do that for me, pretty please, with ghosties on top? Who's here?
Don't feel like that.
Yeah, don't piss it off. Help me now.
Come out, wherever you are.
I have never experienced something like this before.
It's going on. It's going on. What?
Thank you so much.
I feel like it's a male energy in here. He was picking on my friends, and I'm kind of upset about that.
I don't know what to do, per se.
That's kind of why we do this.
Shut up! So that was one of the most intense moments of Oddity Files yet.